We're going to have some discussion tonight on our topics on the agenda. The Tourism Revenue Preservation Fund, TRPF allocations at the 2022 town meeting. One quick comment is none of us are wearing masks. How much trouble are we going to get you guys into, or should we put them on? I don't want to get anybody in touch with.
I don't care.
You know, if everyone's comfortable, I'm comfortable, but it's certainly up to you. Well, I mean, in the
Have it
hallway.
handy. So everybody, you have one in your hand.
Yeah, just have it on the table. I'm fine not wearing it, but just wanted everyone else, if you want to put it on, put it on. Sure.
Kurt's coming.
Hey, Kurt.
Yeah, I just had that other silly title.
Yeah, do
Chair of the planning board.
it if it makes you feel comfortable. That's all. The Tourism Revenue Preservation Fund, the TRPF allocation for the 2022 annual town meeting. Last week's discussion that I was not here for, but I was on the Zoom call. I missed the first few minutes of the conversation. Was about allocating money into buckets, which is something that we have not done in the past. We've just taken it as a lump sum and held it in, in abeyance for utilization. So why don't we just sit there and let's start the conversation off, and whoever wants to grab the floor and talk about the allocation of the money into specific buckets. I'll hold my comments off till the end.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yeah, please.
I was going back and forth on this when I initially heard it. I was not for it. And then it was pretty much because I felt we were going to be pigeonhole ourselves into certain categories. And they were defined. And number two was we wouldn't have any opportunity to change something until a succeeding annual meeting or a special town meeting, right? So that was, and my mind changed last week when it was said to me, and I want the minutes to reflect this too, especially with what the town manager said. These 4 or 5 categories, according to him, are broad enough for us that in the event that we think something comes up during the course of the year that would require our attention, or someone seeking some dollars, that we would be able to do that based upon the scope of these categories. For example, an economic development project, somebody came in, asked for it to do a study on economic development, we could pull it out of that without coming in any interference with going to this change. So that's why I'm changing my mind.
Okay.
And as long as that's true, and the town council, because it eventually come back to the town council, reaffirms that in fact these are categories are broad enough that we wouldn't have to go back to a special town meeting or wait for another annual town meeting. That I'm okay with.
Okay. So, Joe?
So the draft article as written includes the $50,000 economic development project that bumped up by $50,000 roughly. As I think I indicated last meeting, I'm prepared to fight for that if that's what the committee wants to do. I think that our budget is going to be impacted going forward. And if we're going to be looking for that $50,000 in the future, there might be a need to set some precedent. Aside from that, I agree with what's just been said in terms of our flexibility. And I wouldn't want to see, I wouldn't be in support of anything that would limit our flexibility to address the needs of the town.
Okay. Joanne?
I'm in favor of the version of the draft that includes the additional 50,000. So the total allocation appropriation would be the 567,122.
But what's your thoughts, just so we get
The
on the buckets?
the buckets, based on what Kyle said at our last meeting, that historically these buckets the range of these buckets seem to work. I'm comfortable with it. I hope there's enough in there for administration. in terms of the administration of some of these things with
Mhm.
more money. I'm not sure if there's if there are other needs there that you looked at, but I'll go with their recommendation on the allocation.
Certainly, as Steve put it, if the money can be moved around within the allocations of the buckets, I kind of say the numbers that are on the paper, not totally irrelevant, but somewhat irrelevant if the money can be moved within the buckets. Phil,
Well, they can't.
You,
They can't,
that was a question that Steve
No.
just brought up. So
they can't be moved.
You can't
I
take
should-
money from
it's-
economic
it's okay.
development to put into public work.
That's correct.
you cannot, no.
But my point was, I understood that these categories in and of themselves are broad enough that they ought to be able to cover anything that comes in. No, something out way out of the ordinary.
Mhm.
I assume we'd have to debate it, but
Yeah.
based on what my experience has been since I've been on this committee is that we could pull from one of those categories without having any issue at all.
I mean, I think I agree, and I think Kyle said the same things last time. So everything that you've ever kind of imagined
Yep.
seems to be covered by those. I think the question, I just want to make 3 points. The question is, one, is there anything that you're thinking of or been thinking of that's come up in conversation that you don't think is covered there? In which case you want to identify it and call it out.
not at this point.
So then you would wait until kind of the next opportunity, special town meeting or annual town meeting to make any change if something like that happens. Or you find a way to fit it in. I mean, they're very broad categories. Administration, just so you guys know what the administrative costs are that we tap the fund for, it's just 50% of Kyle's salary. That's all we've done.
Yep.
We also have, very small, we'll hit it for supplies or advertising, those types of expenses. The third point is just relative to the $50,000. My understanding from Bob Rittenauer's interpretation of the legislation, together with town council, is that the 50 isn't, it's not a discretionary thing. It's in there. So go for the 50. And I think if it comes up again with the board, it comes up with the board.
Mhm.
That's it. Thank you. Sorry to go out
No,
of turn,
it's okay.
Joe.
Joe.
I mean, maximum flexibility is what I would like, but this is really along the lines where being able to move stuff would be nice, but I think that moving forward, we've probably gotten away with quite a bit of flexibility for a long time, so I can work with this. My only question, I guess, and I wasn't at the last meeting, is what's the impact to this if the article goes through that they take the short-term rental out of this for this year? So I know it has to have legislative approval, it has to have all of that, but what is the short-term rental input of our, 517,000? See if that changes.
I apologize. I can run and try to find the numbers.
Roughly like 175.
It's pretty substantial
Yeah.
this year,
Yeah.
but I think that from the numbers I've seen that break out the short term and the hotel motel numbers, this FY23 appropriation is based on FY21 figures. So it's good. The difference, the delta with the short-term rental, the impact here, I don't know how to describe it. The difference this year, I think it would go down, what did we say? 180? Was that the number?
I think so. I mean, historically, before
Mhm.
short-term rentals were
Yeah.
introduced, it was like 385 was what your fund was at.
Yep.
About.
We have to confirm the figures
Mhm.
that the accounting department is carrying on the short-term rental. But I think that it's a good question to ask, and you're on the agenda for the 1st of March
Mhm.
with the Board of Selectmen, is the way that article is written, that we shared last time when Bob Rittenauer was here, I keep pointing here because he was
Mhm.
sitting right here,
Right.
it said when it takes effect.
Right.
And the way I read that, and you'd want to confirm that, is when the legislation's passed
Mhm.
or when the town meeting vote takes place. Everything I understand is that it's when the legislation takes effect, so it would be in an out year.
So is there a possibility that that number of five, call it 567, right now on paper, could go down by 180?
I don't think so. I haven't heard that at all, but I think that was Joe's question, is if you took the short-term rental tax out of there, what would this number look like?
Not this year though, right? Because the
Because that's-
article,
No, he was saying this year.
That's what the question at hand is. Is it
I
possible?
think what Bob was saying last meeting was that it wouldn't be.
It-
Right.
I agree.
Do
Right,
you want to
so-
add an amendment that says in the event that the number fluctuates, this total appropriation, that all these buckets would be adjusted pro rata, cover yourself, because otherwise it's going to be zero. That's not the number.
Yeah, I guess without that information, certainly would be, CYA with that,
I think you can put in your cover memo, this assumes that you're getting
Full
the
allocation.
full allocation for FY '23.
Right.
Should that change, then, we reserve the right to go back and revisit things.
Which may conflict because you're appropriating this money, but you're also, if they both pass, then you pass the other one that says that now going to take that money away.
Right.
So
Just-
And I think I 100% agree with Kyle. I haven't gotten any impression that it's for this year. But,
hearing everybody's comments, and this is just my comment, just so I can have some clarification, just on the 50,000, because I'm fine with the allocation of the buckets. In the historically, in the appropriations, how many times has this committee, does anyone have an idea,
I think I have a
Yeah.
spreadsheet
You have
somewhere.
received the additional
so do
50,000?
my-
Budget, right?
yeah, go there. And
Yeah.
then, oh, you know what? No, Kyle, go
It's
to
really
town
not the
meeting.
extra 50,000, it's supposed to be the base.
Right, I
And
Under-
understand.
start
what
on
was
date.
cute is what's subject to appropriation
Right.
under it, so
Right,
it was only intended to be if it was an absolute disaster in the budget of the town.
mhm,
It wasn't
Six
meant to be a
times.
regular practice. to not
Six.
do it.
Well, 3 times for 50.
right. That's-
Yeah, so in the beginning,
Yeah, it came out in the beginning.
it came piecemeal, and I think the town kind of offered up what it could and built the fund.
Mhm,
And then when the local option taxes expanded,
mhm.
and then when we filtered in the meals tax as well, the allocation grew quite a bit. I don't recall, Kurt, why, like in 14, 16, or 17, 50 came in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any
I
idea why
really
it came
don't.
in. I guess just my concern, this is just myself, even at 517, this far and exceeds any budget that we've ever received. And just me speaking, if the committee wants to go for the additional 50, that's a committee decision, not a single person decision. I just have a concern that once we start, getting greedy, I'm concerned that the town's gonna take a good hard look at all this money and say, okay, how much do you really need? And what are you doing with it? So.
I think what we had talked about before,
Yeah,
Ken,
please.
was that we know the short-term rental piece will be coming out eventually.
Absolutely.
So why not set a precedent now to grab that 50? Because we're going to drop by 180 or 200,000.
Totally agree.
In
But
the
we-
out years.
we've set the precedent in the past, in 13 or 14, 16 and 17. There's the precedent that was set.
Right.
My point is, this is an annualized number. We can go back every single year. We can, if it drops and we know it's going to drop next year, when it does drop, because that money, that short-term is going away, then we go and ask for it. I just, it's just one person's opinion. I just trying to look at the whole delta here and saying, what do we do to be smart with this money? Because I hope that's what they're asking about us, and that's why we're doing this. So,
It seems to fit though,
Mhm.
in my opinion. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That if we're taking the lead of council
Mhm.
in terms of allocating this into buckets, it's also council's opinion that we should be getting the 50. So why would we want to take council advice in one respect and not in the other?
And that was the town manager's offering out too.
Okay.
So,
sure, I wasn't. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, no.
And moreover, excuse me,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, the category that it's dumped into,
Mhm.
if there's something coming before this committee that's not economic development project, then it shouldn't be coming.
It shouldn't
before
become
this
for
committee.
us. I
So
totally agree with that.
That gives us the flexibility that everyone's concerned with. I
Okay.
think.
Sure.
guess Karen, is there any money in here that would be able to use as matching grant for any matching grants?
I think all of them.
All of it.
All of them?
I think all of them. And so, I mean, the committee's been extremely generous, say for the drive-in site or packet landing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just whether or not it's.
That's a good question.
All good questions. So, I guess the next step is to take a vote. My question to Karen and Kyle is, should it be done as two separate votes? One, that we're okay with the buckets, and two, money?
I think you just do it as one and say,
Okay,
that's your recommended article as written on the.
fair enough. Anybody want to make a motion? Somebody needs to make a motion.
I move the motion.
What's the motion that you want?
As written in the article. Prepared by the town,
Yeah, you recommend,
Which number?
567, 122.
Second.
So what's on the floor is a motion for 567, 122. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it.
as unanimous, right?
That was
Do you want Kyle to prepare a memo to go on top of it that mentions you're assuming it's based on the full allocation?
Mhm.
And that you're maybe following along the guidance of town council
That's right.
in both veins
Mhm.
on the buckets and the $50,000.
I'm fine with that, yes. Okay. Number two. Yeah, go.
Just one question. You
Sure.
mentioned in March 1st. So
That's-
lessons, what is that?
That's, I saw on the out schedule for the selectmen's meetings where they itemize the subjects.
Oh, the articles?
Well, just the meeting topics. That's always at the back of the
Oh, yeah,
packet
yeah,
for the
Mhm.
selectmen. That CEDC is scheduled for March 1st. I haven't gotten, that's subject to change, of
Yep.
course. But that's the latest information we have.
Okay.
And it would be related to this article.
Yes.
Marketing RFP. Discussion about that. Please.
We don't have a working plan already. Robert doesn't have-
Karen, help us out with that.
But we have, so historically, we've done an RFP. The town doesn't have its own marketing plan.
Okay, that's my first question. The second plan, what are the services currently provided by through the town, the chamber? I don't see it as an addendum here.
No, I don't know if the quarterly reports, did Maria get a copy of those?
I'm not sure. Maybe not. I can send her that.
My
Okay.
point is, as the chief procurement officer,
Sure.
many times, I would,
Mhm.
seems to me if you're asking for deliverables, it's dependent upon something that's already been conducted, so that would be nice to see. That'd be nice for me to see. 'Cause I have
I'm
no
not-
idea what the chamber does.
I'm not, okay, so
Either.
just to, I mean, we're happy to share with you any and all information. So the chamber has, as part of the contract agreement, they provide us quarterly reports that
This is a
itemize
simple.
everything that they've done in any given quarter. We also have a monthly billing arrangement where the expenses are broken down by category. And
So
we
the
have all of that.
services currently provided by the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce are memorialized to a quarterly report.
they're memorialized through a contract
Okay.
agreement that the town has.
So that
You
would-
don't
that's-
have a copy. If you'd
Yeah,
like a
I-
copy of the
yeah,
contract,
okay.
then
Yeah,
we
well,
can give you that easily.
My point is, if I were a company, I would want to have
Mhm.
that, or at least a summary of that, before I went and got kind of public information request.
And certainly within the RFP, those scope of services is certainly outlined within that. So that at least going into it, whether it's the chamber or, Fleming Roskelly, they're adding, Newport, that, they know what they're bidding on, or at least what the expectation of the bid
So we've gone
is.
through a
So
full RFP process for, I don't know,
this will be the fifth time.
Is it the fifth time?
It's the fifth
So
time.
is it, and it's not just a nationwide search, right? You send it out to,
We
Why
We
advertise
advertise
it and
open, anybody who wants to, you know,
it's,
just
you know, we
check.
follow standard procurement rules.
you know, and certainly, I'm just, you know, I can talk a little bit historically, because I actually was on the procurement committee back in the very beginning, on the very first time. And, you know, at that time, when the RFP went out, the chambers responded, and we had 3 agencies that responded. And one of the pieces that I'll tell you is that, you know, yes, it's a sizable sum of money. Any one of us wouldn't mind getting it as a check. But from an ad agency, it's not a ton of money. Basically, what we found from an ad agency, a full service ad agency, what it's gonna buy you is a Facebook campaign for a year, or social media marketing, you know, geofencing, that type of stuff. But certainly, you know, the full scope of services that the chamber's been able to provide with the money has been pretty immense. And I'll just leave it at that, you know, if an agency, a full service agency, it's not a ton of money for them. And, you know, they're not gonna dedicate a full team just to that, to the town of Yarmouth, I guess is the quick way to put it, so. I thought that your red line version was very well done, Joanne. You know, right here on the scope of services, it really was very, you know, well put together, and certainly helped enhance the
Yeah, it was just
RFP.
the one ad there. I thought that was important, but most of them were comments.
But certainly would like to hear everybody else's comments on it. And, you know, one of the things I will say, backing up one step for a second, you know, this right here, the way we've allocated the money towards marketing, this has to match that if we're gonna do this on a annualized yearly basis. This can't be an 18-month contract any further.
The other thing to consider is the sand sculpture trail.
Mhm.
That's kind of a sticky thing. Last contract, I think it was the 2019 sand sculpture trail, was funded out of the marketing contract originally. So that's why it was 180,000 in the first year instead of 150,000, which is what it had been historically.
Mhm.
Now this year, you guys have already budgeted for the sand sculpture trail for this year outside of the marketing contract. But there'll be next year's sand sculpture trail, which will be a part, which could be under this contract, or you could fund it separately. That's just something to keep in mind.
So the last time I mean, and this is just to, you know, we write this trying to be broad,
Mhm.
and this is to Maria's point, just trying to advertise for the world and all of that. And I think it's worth having the conversation about it and making note of it, but do you want the sand sculptures to be part of this ask, or do you want to call it a general? I think that the way it's in here is you've asked for a signature event.
Right.
And I think the language even that's in here says signature event, like the sand sculpture trail that's been done historically. And we can leave that as is, as long as you want to budget accordingly.
I'm okay personally budgeting accordingly and having it part of the overall offer. That's just my
Me too.
thoughts.
I'm
So,
agreeing. Did I hear you say though that we're just gonna do a 12-month contract or?
well, no, my point is if we're allocating money on a 12-month annualized basis, which is what this is doing.
Yeah.
How can you write an RFP and allocate this? Because you have no idea what's going to be available in the last 6 months.
Can you put wording in that to the effect though that subject to?
It'd have to be subject to appropriation.
I mean, the other thing is that you do have the existing balances that are in the tourism fund.
Mhm.
And so I think you have, I don't know I just looked at it and I can't remember, of course, it's like $100,000 in unallocated currently.
Yeah.
That you're able to, because that money's already been appropriated
Right,
at the
right,
town meeting.
right.
It's kind of grandfathered.
We can kind of stick with the
So we could go
current
with,
system
we could
of,
go with 18-month contract using that money.
I
for the
mean,
last
if
6
if
months.
we're
months.
saying 18-month contract, we don't have a price proposal in hand, so we don't really know, right? But we're budgeting accordingly, and I think the figures were $1.50
Right.
for 12 months historically.
Mhm.
So
Part of the reason for
Wanna
the
go
18-month
from there.
contract is it gave the chamber flexibility when you're buying advertising.
Very exact.
Because typically you're not buying it today for tomorrow, you're buying it today for May, you know?
yeah,
so-
and just so everybody here knows, in case you don't already know, so we go through the full procurement process. We're able to enter into a contract for no more than 36 months. So that's the upset limit here. And I think that just breaking it into some subset of time, 12 months, 18 months, whatever you want, is a good idea, just because you don't have all the money in the bank right now.
Right.
So you can't commit
Yeah,
because money hasn't been appropriated. And, you know, it's a balance with what you're buying.
Karen, do we affect that, what you just described, by doing a 12-month contract with 2 renewals?
Absolutely. That's how we
Because I
used to
think
do
that-
it, Joe.
The 12-month, it seems to me like a lot of the stuff we're talking about that we just talked about previously is about cleaning up some stuff.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't we want to really align things very clearly and cleanly? At this particular time where we have the opportunity to do that.
I think you can do it, and we can commit internally, the town, and I think you codify it through the contract, that you're going to revisit the renewal early enough in the process. That you're going to, you know, commit to renewing the contract.
Because the other piece of this that, you know, as a marketing person, you're going to be planning without that assurance, they're going to be planning for stuff that they don't know if they're necessarily going to be under contract to do. And that's not really fair.
Right.
You know, I don't know if there's a way in the RFP to create a drop dead date on the renewal.
Mhm.
So that they're afforded the ability to know what it is. Prior, maybe it's 9 months in, it has to be, they have to be given some information one way or another, whether or not they're gonna be renewed for that second, then third. That seems to be equitable in my mind, and clean at the same time.
Seems fair to me.
It makes accounting easy.
Right,
Well, the-
absolutely.
The other thing on the accounting and the clean topic is that this contract is going to start August 1st
Yeah.
and run through July 2023. So it runs 1 month into next fiscal year. So it's a
So if
little
you-
messy with your,
I mean, you may want to really clean it up and do 11 months, 12 and 12.
Right.
I don't know. It's
As far
just
as
how things are
time
right
after
now.
the
It's
fiscal year of the town.
Yeah. It's just awkward right now with the August.
Mhm.
The current contract ends, like Val said, July 31st.
You know,
So
11, 13, and 12.
so Karen, just so I understand. This RFP can be built with a writing written statement to the effect that whoever wins the contract, it's going to be a 3-year, 36-month contract. 36-month contract, written how we want to write it, whether it's 11 months first year, second year, 12 months, 12 months. Right.
Except that's only 35.
Right. Okay. But I'm saying what I'm saying is correct. It's
Up
the
to
3 year.
the-
It's
Up to.
up to, so let me.
it's written in the thing. It says
where is it?
contract term will be a minimum of 12 months,
Right.
subject to town's discretion and available funding. It can be expended up to 36 months.
Well,
I don't
we're
think it
giving them-
has
I don't
to,
think it
right?
has to either,
No.
but I think you're just setting, I think that the intention there, you know, and that was, you know, if we don't know who's going to win this RFP,
Mhm.
right? Saying that it's gonna be, we're promising a 12-month contract, and then we'll renew it, subject to, you know, negotiation. You're doing a good job. We want to continue. I think that's the only reason why you wouldn't commit to the 36 from the outset.
My suggestion, you're incorporating my suggestion about the renewal
Drop dead.
conversation that has to happen in month 9, right?
I would,
I mean, it
if you're
really
gonna
has
go
to
that
happen
route, I
month
think Joe's
6,
right.
but
You gotta
Oh,
put
yeah.
something in, you gotta put a
Oh,
trigger in there
absolutely.
that gives someone the options. knowing
I
that.
think it's in the contract today. It might not be in the RFP, but I think
Right.
it's in the contract agreement that that's what we would do.
But we can definitely add it in the
just as
RFP.
long
Yep.
as the bidders know. what-
Yeah, absolutely.
With-
No.
sorry.
It's good to put everything everywhere. I'm a believer.
Good comment.
Good.
So we would give them 90-day notice for the original and the 2 supplements.
For the 2 additionals.
For the 2 additional.
For the extensions.
Right. the 2 additional extensions.
Unless someone thinks that that's not.
What it doesn't seem like it's that long. See, I think what always, I think that it's hard in the first kind of iteration of the annual contract, right? Because it you know, if you need 6 months lead time to put in your buys, you know, then you're renewing it. And maybe that's okay,
And
6 months in.
right, but they'd probably only be able to get us one quarterly. report
Yeah, it'll
in
be
that
tough
time
to,
period.
Right.
it'll be tough to
Yeah, so.
We'll
they're
do it
kind
90
of-
days.
analyze
to
how
check
exactly.
performance.
You know, you'd see 2 with a 90 day.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I will say this much as far as the 6-month buy, as Joe mentioned, all that stuff, that's for traditional media, which there's less and less of that being bought every day. You know, the stuff that they're doing now and what, you know, from a digital platform, that you're talking weeks, not
Right,
months
pretty
now.
quick.
So
Okay,
I think 90 days is sufficient. You know, whether it's the chamber or XYZ advertising agency, but one of the things that we certainly, you know, we're not trying to write a marketing plan here, but I don't see them buying a ton of TV and radio and newsprint. And those are the ones that, you know, you're looking for, you know, buy periods of months, not weeks. So
even radio, is radio not that
all that stuff. You can call today and get radio spots for next week.
awesome?
You know, so I mean, the whole world's changing from the marketing side, just because the traditional side, those long-term buys are going away now too, because they don't care. They, you know, I mean, look at the WBZ morning news and look at some of the ads that they're having on, you know, on BZ's morning newscast.
Mhm.
10 years ago, you never would have seen that stuff.
Mm-mm.
But you know,
I'm
they're
gonna
doing
pay
it
more
now.
attention tomorrow morning.
What's that? I don't even want to cross into these topics, but I'm totally serious. Look, tomorrow morning, watch Channel
I
4's
will.
morning
I
news,
do.
and you'll see some of the ads. You go, holy smokes! But I'm serious. 10 years ago, you never would have seen the ads that you're seeing
Mhm.
now at 6:30 in the morning. It's because the traditional buyer, the Ernie Bucks of the world, aren't going to BZ in the morning and advertising cars. You know, so you know, my comment: 90 days is plenty of time. It really is.
Okay.
So, I guess the comment is, first off, you know, is everybody okay with what you're, I'm 100% okay with the changes to the red line version of. the
I also have Steve, this up right now is Joanne's
Good.
edits with Steve's stuff on there too.
Yeah, so I could just go quickly through, I don't have a lot. First, I want to thank Joanne for doing those are well done.
Well, very well done, thank you.
So I think we talked, I had underlined or read it out to 12 months and a maximum 18 months. I think we just cleared that up sufficiently. Somewhere down, I think on page 7 or whatnot, it says something about a selection committee. And I think if we could pull that up to the top. So who is the selection committee? And let people know right up front who the selection committee is, who's comprised of, who's on the budget. I just take that paragraph and move it up top. It's my suggestion. So people will know that they're reading the RFP, who the selection committee is. And by the way, who is the selection committee? Is it members of this
So
committee?
we,
It's to be determined. It's up for discussion, but we were thinking,
It was in the past, there had been one member of this committee, one member of town hall, and then one ad hoc member, you know, somebody at large, and,
Mhm.
you know, knows something about marketing.
Yeah.
For the candidate.
yeah. so something
I
like
had
that
been
was-
on it twice, once when I was before this committee and once when I was on this committee.
What was, when we spoke?
Well, it was
What
pretty
were
much
we
that,
saying, two?
that, and then Svetlana too for the procurement.
Yeah, so we have the Svetlana Salem, she's our procurement person. I think that's nice to have. Definitely Kyle.
Yeah.
And either one more member of you guys, or if you want to have 2 members, then I'll go 2 and balance out staff and committee.
So I just think we ought to pull that paragraph up and indicate in the paragraph who the representatives are on the committee.
I think it's a little premature.
It wasn't part of the RFP in the
And,
past.
and just because I went
Mm.
through it, you know, somebody who has good intentions of being on it somehow.
Mhm.
You could say likely to be comprised of, right?
That's a good
A town
suggestion.
member,
That's fine.
member
I'm
of the EDC.
okay with that.
Yep, generic
Yeah.
identifier.
Okay with that.
That's good.
On On page 2, the RFP is, it says here, April 15th, and elsewhere it says April 25th. So I would just say right there that it's just anticipated schedule, Kyle.
Yep.
Just update that and maybe leave everything.
We will double, triple check those.
Yeah,
so
Yeah,
it's-
yeah.
It's all consistent.
To be honest, it's kind of hard to track those
Fluid
when
right
you're
now.
on track changes,
Right.
so I'll clean all that stuff up once it comes
Yeah,
time.
make sure it falls on the weekend.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I did
And no
do that.
holidays.
On page 3, Kyle. I would just, this is just me, where it says right there, golf course. So collaborate with town on market plans with town-owned venues, including but not limited to. I would put wastewater. In other words, I wanted to give the potential respondent an idea that wastewater is a big piece of this, and they're going to play a part, at least in helping the market. Am I wrong in that? Yes, no?
I mean, they could. I don't think that's exactly the intention of this marketing contract.
Okay,
Like,
so-
because we also have CDM Smith is our consultant
Yeah.
for wastewater,
So
and they do
Chamber-
some marketing.
Okay, so
stuff.
maybe my misunderstanding, Chamber won't be involved in wastewater. I know
You
they're playing a role
it's
in-
not bad to have them like
Aware of the issues.
aware of it, or if you go, is this, I think they're not gonna have the primary responsibility, but maybe,
Right.
kind of weighing in on things or
Mhm.
looking at things.
Yep.
If there's a flyer CDM Smith does that, maybe we want to have another, I don't know, flyers are bad
Add more
word,
cooks in the
right?
kitchen on flyers. That
adding
sounds
cooks.
terrible.
I vote for just Kyle, but, but anyways.
Do we want to put
Point
anything
taken.
on the town-owned property?
Sure what,
Are they gonna help us market?
I think recreational
Oh.
facilities
Yeah, it
covers.
Are you
covers
meaning
that.
the disposition,
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Um,
In other words, can they reach out to potential commercial partners to look at commercial town-owned property? They'll bring about.
I would say no.
Cross the threshold.
Yeah.
Right.
Business development.
It's also not like we have this cache of town-owned properties that we're just waiting for the right developer to come by.
I don't
If
know,
that was the
because we have
case.
to Keep talking about it.
I keep telling you that I've done the inventory. I've looked at the list. I got, come in sometime and I'll run through the list with you, Steve.
That's it.
there's not a lot.
20 years ago.
There's almost none.
Good. Joe?
I like how it's been changed.
Okay.
Very well.
Joanne, anything else to add?
The only thing I want to throw out for discussion is for event coordination is, would it be worth adding, so I know like the surveys that we require, the photos, all that type of stuff for the different events. Would it be worth adding that into this so we have consistent,
Mhm.
so that, whether it's a couple of people like going to Disney, they've got their tablets out, they can go to the events and the data can then be consistent. Same with the photos. Somebody for all the special events, if they would go take photos, they would assist with the survey. So that way you have kind of the same product for all these different events. So that way it would be much more camera ready, the data would be consistent. Would it be, adding that into this might make a little more sense too?
I think that's a great idea, because, so you're saying you get, because I think that, and Kyle can answer it kind of more formally, but the pictures that you get sometimes aren't kind of the super high resolution photos that are appropriate for sticking online or whatever. I think it's an ad over and above what we've currently been doing.
I think the chamber has they have a professional photographer that they've sent to
But
events.
not to every event.
They try to send it to most of them. I don't know if they've done every single one though. I don't know if they've done like the Taylor Bray Farm
Right.
festivals and stuff.
Where do those photos end up?
The chamber.
The chamber was,
So that
But-
might address what Joe was talking about. If
Yeah.
there was a more cloud-based
Yeah.
central location where all that stuff got dumped.
Right, if they, whoever it is has like that professional photographer that's going, so they know what to look for. They're capturing that same viewpoint, I guess,
Mhm.
through all the different events. And the same with I know in my past experience, trying to collect the
Right.
surveys was another one. That was, sometimes it's just very hard, especially for like the parade and the CSAC festival, the bigger events that don't have a gate. It's very hard to collect that data. So not to throw that all onto this contract, but I think to throw some of that in there might just provide for a little more consistency, whether that might be just having 2 people or 1 person at the gate with a tablet going, would you, can you answer some questions to do it? Because then you know that the data is being consistently gathered, at least, even if it was just a few hours or whatever each of that type of thing. Oh, I think it would be a better data, your data would be more consistent, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Joe, at all, as far as consistency of data, information and all that. Housing, photography and all that. It all costs money though. Keep that in mind. You add that stuff to the RFP, you put that in there, and it's Joe Blow Advertising Agency, and you tell them, now every time that you have a town funded event, I'm gonna make sure I have a photographer there and send an intern collecting data at $22 an hour. I'm just gonna take that
Yeah.
right out of the budget, and that's just gonna
But,
chew
I
into
mean,
that.
but don't forget, we're gonna have a price proposal
Yep.
and we can dictate the form of the price
Yep.
proposal. And so we can say, this is what we want to hear about. We
Mhm.
want you to do this photos, the surveys, whatever. And we have to make sure we're saying it the right way. And hopefully, I like seeing an itemized budget
Yep, me too.
when they turn it in. So we could get a price for that and see if fits your budget.
I'm okay with having it to the RFP. I'm
Mhm.
just playing devil's advocate
Okay.
a little bit, saying all that stuff costs money. And, whether it's 150 or 180, you're chewing into it. That's all.
Mhm.
And our tourism contracts spell out that the event organizers are supposed to do exactly that. They're supposed to designate a point person for the surveys and get pictures.
Joe's point though is it's difficult.
I know, but
Right, and just event coordination has been in the past here, and I think, at least what I thought way back when this was done, is it was to try to bring the events more together for that economy of scales and all that. It wasn't so much to have a bunch of little events. Now, I know, the chamber has a bunch of smaller events now, besides the sand sculpture, the trolleys and the other things, and I don't know that that was necessarily the original intent way back then. I thought it was to bring more of it together, so the different groups could work with each other a little bit better, coordinate resources. And granted, not every group is going to want to do that. I know that's an uphill battle, but to me, that's where the event coordination kind of goes more than having a whole bunch of these smaller events under that. But that's just
So anybody want to make a motion?
just real quick, did we decide 12, 12, 12? Was that the
12, 12, 12.
12, 12, 12?
Trigger, 9-month trigger.
Right,
90 days, yeah.
90 days prior to.
Yeah.
Do you still care? So some of the terms in here, if I can, before you go on. So Kyle and I had talked just this afternoon in the background section. It's a little outdated. I thought maybe we should have it align more with the new bucket
What page is that?
design, page 2.
Oh.
So, and we can give mention to that. I mean, Steve, too, there is a way, I like your wastewater comment, and I think in this section where we're providing background, maybe we do want to, I'm thinking out loud right now, but maybe that's where we want to mention things like wastewater.
Yeah.
We could even mention broadband, things, some of these other initiatives.
Yeah.
It's just to give a highlight to people.
Yeah.
But
So we would make that consistent with kind of how we
The
just
article.
voted on the article.
yes, yeah, and then there is mention, and I'm looking to you guys because you know way better than I do. Things like trade shows,
Mhm.
are they still relevant? Do we want to keep them in?
Yeah.
I didn't think so, but is there penalty too to taking them out? I
Yeah,
don't-
I don't see any penalty taking them out,
Okay.
but I mean, typically one of the trade shows that, from the golf side, we go to all the golf shows. And, the attendance of those.
I think we
things,
stopped going before COVID hit.
Yeah.
So,
There
um,
are people going because what else are you gonna do in March?
right,
You can't golf yet,
yeah.
and people are going for the freebie golf balls and that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to look modern, just
Yeah.
so that the town looks good and that we know you're not going to trade shows
Speaking
anymore.
of that, is there anything that we could add in there relative to the vision plan?
Yeah, I think Joanne had made
Yeah,
a
and that's
suggestion
okay,
too.
She did.
So that's what I was gonna say, some of the things you commented on are iterated in the visioning plan, like the wastewater and other things.
Yeah.
You
So
just pull it forward.
it's a little.
It's just
dated.
providing a reference back and we can point them to the attachment.
Yeah,
Um,
you
you know what I
probably
mean?
should,
Yeah.
anything not,
Yep.
incorporated by reference. We encourage you, to look at this before responding.
It's a good way to look good.
Can I get some sort of motion?
I moved at the,
you-
the,
Or you haven't been sworn in yet, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, beautiful.
Congratulations.
I keep breaking rules, are you nuts?
So I just wanted to make sure we're following all the rules. I was told by Kyle you hadn't been
Well, I
sworn.
said my last meeting. she
Yeah.
had it, so I didn't.
Beautiful.
Ah,
All right, good.
Don't be
I'm
right
Uh-oh.
on the bus.
Uh-oh.
You're
Wow.
official.
I moved that we, ask staff to publish, with the RFP with, as amended. And,
And the edits mentioned herein.
yeah, as amended.
Okay.
As amended.
But and
The
I'm
edits
just saying the
included.
additional comments we've had,
Yes.
just to give a
To
little bit of
clarify.
editorial license here.
Yes, and then written and as discussed during tonight's meeting.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
So
Great.
so we'll have to come back to figure out who's gonna serve on the selection committee at some point.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Last meeting minutes, there's a meeting on January 25th and the one on February 8th. Abstained from it, was not added. Any discussion on the 25th? Minutes?
Motion to approve the January 25th minutes is written.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Abstain? Abstain?
Oh, we abstained?
I think I was here.
You were not. Yeah, no, you were not. It's just Joe Gibbs, Steve, Joanne, and Mary. So we can't vote on this.
Okay. On the 25th.
Yeah, we need Mary for a quorum. One of you guys can watch the video and vote on it.
Or you can do it by necessity. The easiest thing to do is just wait for Mary.
I get a motion to approve the minutes as written on February 8th. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain since I wasn't here.
Great. Committee member updates. Joanne?
Planning board presented to the Board of Selectmen last week, the vision plan, and two articles that are on the special, that are on the annual town warrant, annual meeting town warrant. One for short-term rentals and the other for seasonal housing.
Mhm.
So that was our last, meeting. And Kathy Williams was here at our last meeting to brief us all on the status of that. The RAC doesn't meet until next week.
28th.
No, sir. Great. Good. Anybody else? Committee member updates?
I hope the staff has already seen the Destination Development Capital Grant. So I asked about matching grants, so.
Great.
It's coming up and it's through Mass Office of Tourism. It's mostly, it's for infrastructure. So if you've got something that needs to be supplemented, that would be great. I spoke with Keiko Oral, she's the executive, and so she's a friend. So at any point in time, if you wanted her to come down
That'd be great.
and it's something I actually just briefly talked to about best practices, like, she's the one who's going to the trade shows, right?
Right.
And talking to people in South Carolina, et cetera, et cetera. So, to the extent that she could bring something back to us, I just took it upon myself to say that she would be, upon an invitation, she would
Wonderful. Thank you.
Zoom in.
Love to have her.
Right.
Staff updates.
Actually, can I go back
Yeah,
to the,
please.
record me as abstaining for the because of the votes.
Okay.
For the minutes.
Yep.
It's technically a member.
We're just busy getting ready. We're in full-blown town meeting mode, working on this.
Mhm.
And so together with you on March 1st, CPC is going, and the Historical Commission, there should be an interesting conversation around the town seal
Mhm.
and
Around the town.
town seal.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, that's-
So, stay tuned.
Quick question.
Sure,
Are there
go ahead.
any members of the public on the meeting right now?
Not that I can see.
But conceivably, anybody
Can
from
watch
the
this.
public could be on this meeting right?
Could be joined on Zoom. I would see them if they were,
Or be in this room.
or be in this room. Yeah, it's an open meeting. Tom's here. We let him in. Oh, yeah.
Nobody lets me in.
Kurt is here.
Yeah, I was, trust, I was gonna do it. Thank you. Yep.
I'm only asking this question because there's someone that's been precluded from being here. I just want to make it clear that
No, it's been
public could be anyone watching.
If you're saying Mary has been precluded, she has not been precluded, if that's what you're getting at.
I absolutely don't understand why she's not here.
Well, she can't vote on anything, but she can come and attend. And no one told her she could not come and attend.
Okay,
Just so,
I guess that should have been my question.
she was invited to come, just, it was told, just so everybody knows. She was invited to come, but she was told by me that I was not gonna allow her to vote, just so we're all on the same page there, so.
I spoke with Mary as well.
Yeah, I think it's much cleaner to keep it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you know, Mary, you know,
there shouldn't be any questions at all.
yeah, no, so. Kyle, any updates?
No updates, just to touch base real quick on the future meetings. So next week, we have Bill Scott coming in to give you a memo that delineates the economic studies and how those will be budgeted a little bit further than what you guys received last time.
Great.
I'm gonna ask him to give me something by the end of this week so you can look at it over the weekend. We're also gonna be talking about a request for funding for this marketing project using the daily beach and disposal stickers through the DPW. So we'll have that. And if, you know, we were originally supposed to talk about wayfinding. I don't know if we'll have time for that. As Karen mentioned, we might be being asked to go before the Board of Selectmen on March 1st to present the annual town meeting articles. And then you guys were originally scheduled to meet on March 8th. That would be 5 weeks in a row
5
of
weeks in a
meetings.
row.
So we might want to take that one off or push that one back, but that's totally up to you guys.
What's everybody's consensus on that, please? That would be literally 5 weeks in a row. I mean, if we want to do it, I don't have a problem with it,
I'll take a break.
Are we
but I
all,
wouldn't mind taking a break either.
are we all expected to go March 1st?
You only need
I
one
think-
or two members
Yeah.
usually.
But I certainly think that it would behoove us to have it. What's that? Yeah,
Chambers.
yeah, I'll be there. But,
And you.
Tom.
I know you're gonna be there.
the Tom's gonna be there anyways, but, yeah, so I wouldn't mind taking.
It does help, even if you attend remotely. The Board of Selectmen do pay attention. to-
Oh, I can.
Oh, okay. I can't even size you up there.
You know, he's joking,
No, you get that serious.
I'd
voice all the
recommend-
time.
that we hold off and we'll pick a date on the
That was for season-
22nd for
Yeah,
the meeting in March. How's
sounds
that?
good.
That sound good to everybody? So give us a break. I will say this much, that just keep in mind that one of the discussions on the committee reorganization, one of my recommendations back a year ago was that certainly I'll leave it up to Steve, but my recommendation was that I was willing to do it for a year. I think, you know, I didn't want to do this forever. I want to be on the committee still, but I think Steve as vice chair, I'd love to pass the baton in March to Steve if he wants to roll.
If anyone wants me.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
you know, and so that was one of the discussions of the committee reorganization.
Yeah.
Was that I had said I'd do it for a year and I'd pass it to Steve. I just didn't think it was fair to the committee to do it for 10 years.
Have you
whatever.
only been chair for 1 year?
I've been vice chair for,
Who was,
I was vice chair for like 5 years.
What am I missing? I was a
Peter,
Peter.
Peter, yeah, and then when
Don't tell
Peter,
him I forgot.
when Peter stepped aside, when he got elected, I said I'd do it for a year.
Years chairman for like
It
a
felt like
decade.
longer
I
than
thought it was
that.
appropriate to
No,
hear
I
different
know.
voices, so.
Hey, no term limits in Congress.
What's that?
No term limits in
Yeah,
Congress.
this isn't.
And that
Congress.
relates to its own set
This
of
isn't
problems.
Congress, so I don't need a lifetime commitment. So, two quick things. Is there any public comment? Tom? No? One thing Maria, I just wanted to make sure that has everybody had an opportunity to meet Maria Marasco, new to the committee?
We met virtually. No, we met, but this.
Joe Gibbs, nice to meet you.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm thrilled to have her on board. I think that, she brings a ton of insight and a ton of contact, which I think is important to us.
Has Maria, have
Or
you
you
had
want
a
to take a
chance
second,
to
just to
introduce
introduce
yourself?
yourself? Yeah.
Your background?
Thank you.
I've been a resident since I was 2 years old. Like full-time, about 10, 15 years now. I am a non-practicing attorney, I have to say that, because I have my MBA. I started a number of small businesses in Massachusetts. I bought the liquor store from the Martins when I came down here full-time. But after that, I was appointed by Governor Baker as a Southeast Regional Director for the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. So that's where I get my contacts with the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, and my relationship with the government. The people that actually are giving out the money for tourism. So while they're still in office, I don't be shy. I mean, that's my approach as well. You guys as well. And then after I left the Massachusetts Office of Business Development, I was the Executive Director of the Fall River Redevelopment Board for a year. And I brought in, I actually sold quite a bit of land that had been undeveloped and in the middle of COVID. So a lot of real estate contacts as well. So the one that got indicted. My only personal that didn't come into the city hall, and that was the one good thing. But then again, that had nothing to do with the one by the city. However, notwithstanding that, it was what I brought to the city.
This is one of those moments where they can't tell if I'm kidding or not.
We should have turned first.
Gotta size you up.
Yeah. So anyway, we're off.
There's a good guy in there.
Hey, drafting corruption can make the town better.
So that's who I am. I live on the Bass River. I sail beetle packs. I like to fish, and I miss all the restaurants. in town.
Yeah.
It's great.
Can I ask a question? That grant you gave for infrastructure, could it be used for worker value site?
Yeah.
It could.
I'm pretty sure. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, I encourage, Kyle and Karen, just call them. Call the contact and just say, I can read through the whole thing, or can you give me the quick and dirty? And if you can't get through. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. Super.
Thank you.
The one other thing about committee reorganization is keep in mind that we'll need a vice chair, because I'll step down to the committee level, so keep that all in mind, guys. All right,
You gotta be for the drive-in if you want the job.
what's that?
You gotta be for the drive-in if you want the job.
All right, anything else to add?
Are you gonna have the other representative committees? You have the drive-in site right now.
Yeah.
And then what's your other one? Is
Design
someone on
review.
Design review?
It's Steve for both.
Yeah.
So you might want to just have.
Just
that
like it was
conversation.
Jack.
Maybe you
Yeah.
have lots of time,
We
Steve,
can
which
have a
is great.
conversation about all that. So,
Yeah. I think I said the design review, I'll do it for a year.
right. So I told you that I'd take it after you.
Yeah,
so-
right. Yeah.
so Go from there. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say we have a winter carnival coming up at the end of the week,
Thank you.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, weather permitting. Hope to see everyone there.
Supposed to be next weekend. Where's it at, Tom?
Papagino. There will be pizza and beer as they serve now, without beer and wine, if people did not know. They
Good.
wouldn't know, like Floor cappuccinos at the pizza.
Fantastic. Should be a fun event. It's supposed to be a nice weekend too. It's supposed to be sunny and cool, but nice.
And if we're all sitting here in 2027, 2028, the winter carnival will be down the street at 669 Route 28.
Okay.
Is that the right address?
67,
It is.
28, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's where hopefully we'll wind up.
That's the goal, right?
Is that in the shadow of the cell tower?
Yeah, it will be.
That's the other direction. Yeah. Maybe we'll be there sooner with that latest grant for infrastructure.
What happened with the cell tower? I don't.
Got approved.
Did they get approved?
By the church?
Yeah.
It's not.
Cape
by the-
Cod
by the-
Commission approved it.
Yeah,
Did it?
it was just in the paper.
It's gotta come through local, it'll be going to design review before you know it.
Yeah.
And then the zoning board of appeals.
What can this committee do to stop it?
Oh,
Take a look. to
Throw
your
away your
left.
cell phone.
We tried everything. But now it's gonna go through you and the zoning board of appeals.
And the chapel?
Yeah, between the chapel and
Way to the highway,
yeah.
12 stories.
My chapel?
next to Foley's.
Well, I think there's some implications
across the
about
street.
what the town's looking to do in terms of repositioning us economically.
You just need to replay the videos of the Cape Cod Commission and listen
But then-
to Kathy Williams passionately make that argument.
There was something about,
Fell on deaf ears.
I'll get back to you guys, because the assistant town manager explained it to me, but he was talking to Blue Street at the time. But it has something to do with how we're characterized as a town. It escapes me, but that particular use on that particular section of 28 precludes us from being able to set up others. Oh, I know what it was. It was about overlays of zones. And that tower signified a characteristic that was indicative of the current zone. It wouldn't allow for the change to a different type of zone because of its existence there, if it ultimately gets put there. And I can't remember what.
I
the
think he
two
was using
zones
some
were.
of the Cape
Well,
Cod
they-
Commission terminology.
He might have been, yeah.
Of
That
kind of
was-
the village
the rent
center,
was
growth
about the Cape
center.
Cod Commission.
Yeah.
There's layers of zoning and the baseline zoning in there, it is allowed.
Mhm.
But it has to go through certain reviews.
I'm gonna write a letter. And I don't know where it's gonna appear next, but I'm gonna write a letter.
I mean, you can write letters, you can attend these
Yeah.
public
That's
meetings and
bad,
talk to your
bad.
friends.
It's an allowed
mean-
use in the zone. Bottom line,
with-
A tower, yes, of that height, no.
Right.
Right.
so there are some regulatory aspects to it that you can.
They have to get a variance or a special permit.
Okay. So I get a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Were you involved? with
Thank
the-
Thank you. See you, Joe.
Thank you,
No.
guys.
You came here?
Well, unless,
And where are you from
unless,
originally?
unless